Welcome to Between the Sheets, the non-judgmental podcast where we're going to cover various sexual health and wellness topics. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer. I'm a urology and sexual health nurse practitioner, and I love helping my patients and listeners discover and develop their most satisfying sexual experiences. Between the Sheets is here to normalize the conversations about sexual health and cover everything from basic anatomy to the most taboo topics and everything in between. Real talk, real pleasure, one episode at a time. So come on, let's get between the sheets. This episode is sponsored by Boston Scientific and its educational website on erectile dysfunction, edcure.com. One study estimated that more than 50% of men over the age of 40 have some degree of erectile dysfunction, which can be frustrating and confusing. Go to edcure.com to find information on erectile dysfunction and treatment options, including long-term treatment options offered by Boston Scientific. Boston Scientific does not endorse any statements or opinions expressed during this episode. Welcome back to Between the Sheets. We have another guest with us today, and I'm pretty excited about this discussion because it's things that I grew up with and have dealt with, and it's just an amazing connection that I have made with Lucy. She is a sexologist and sex coach, mostly for women, specializing in working with women from a faith background that are dealing with shame and sexual exploration issues and finding their pleasure and their way through relationships and just kind of letting go of all that crap that we grew up with. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with her. So Lucy, welcome so much. And I know you're a member of a sexologist organization over in the UK and you have a practice and all of that. So we'll certainly put all of that in the show notes, but I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Awesome. Actually, I live in Austria, not the
Austria,
UK
okay.
now.
Okay.
I know we moved here a few years ago. So my client base is international.
Awesome.
So I have a base in the UK, but we live in Vienna now.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So how did you get into, kind of specializing in this shame and guilt and, recovery from the purity culture kind of area of sex?
Well, I always say, first of all, I always say there's a long story and a short story. And I always also say that whenever you get into any kind of helping profession, anybody who says they got into it purely just about being interesting is lying. We got out of it out of our own personal stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same for me. I grew up in a very religious family in the UK. So my dad, I think, is the UK's longest serving lay reader, which is in the Church of England. It's like not quite a vicar. It's like below a vicar. My family on both sides are very religious. Luckily, I always say it's most of the nice kind of religious. So it's not cultish. It's not fundamentalism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not shove it down your throat, you're going to hell kind of religious, but it's very much a part of both of my family life. And, even today, my parents are still active churchgoers. It's normal for me, if we're having dinner together, to talk about theology or to, they'll be gossiping, complaining about the bishop. It's still part of my family life on both sides. Yeah. But when I was a teenager, I got very heavily involved in it. And I got very heavily involved in the evangelical movement. And I know that you're US-based and a lot of your listeners are US-based, but, evangelicalism that comes from the US kind of spread all over the world. And in the UK, I always say it's a slightly different flavor of purity culture to what you get in the US. It's maybe a bit more diluted, but it's still damaging. It's still dangerous, in my opinion. And this is a lot of what I internalized. So it was something that I've always had a very high desire and high interest in sex, even when I was young. So it was I had to squash that down. When you get horny thoughts or you start to get aroused, you just sit on it. You pray it away. You do what you need to do, which causes issues. It causes a lot of issues long term. And that's just one thing. So I went through faith deconstruction in my early 20s. I was also in recovery from long chronic illness. So it's something that is very intimate to me, where it's the shame and it's also the not trusting your body. Your body doesn't feel like a safe space. Again, it's a long story and a short story, but I guess the summary is it came from my own experiences. It came to how I came to do this work. And it's something that I love to talk about. I love to explore. I think that I always say that you don't have to have come from a religious background to have been affected by a lot of these teachings. Like in the US, like now, like in a lot of places, the teachings, the belief systems, the values, they trickle down into secular society.
Yeah.
So this is why I do what I do.
I love that. I love that. And so you work with clients individually, and then I think you also have like some classes or sessions coming up for larger groups?
Yes. So I work with women and people involved as either on their own one to one or in a group or in a workshop
Mhm,
setting. So often when someone's asking for help with intimacy, it's often in the context of a relationship or
mhm,
marriage. But I mean, no, I'm going to work with you on your own because it's
mhm,
about you and your relationship with your body and your own sexuality. We can either do it one to one in sessions or as part of a coaching package or groups. I love groups. I love both
mhm,
facilitating them. I love being in them because in groups, it's where we can see ourselves in other people. We get
mhm.
witnessed. We can tell our stories. Sometimes you can release years load of, I'm going to say SHIT,
Yeah, you
from
can say
hearing
it.
somebody, years of shit.
Yes.
I'm always careful about using the word trauma because often the
Mhm,
word gets kind of bandied around a lot. So sometimes I say shit instead of
mhm.
trauma, but we can
I
release a
like it.
lot of shit sometimes just by hearing somebody sharing a
Mm.
different side of their story. And,
Yeah, sort of
as
a
humans,
validation even that you're not alone.
exactly. And
Mhm,
sex is a big, bad, scary, taboo topic,
mhm.
even if you're not from a religious background.
Yeah.
And it means that you end up suffering in silence and feeling like you're the only
Mhm,
one. It's just me who's broken, and I'm going to use quote marks, frigid or a prude, or it's just me with
mhm.
the issues, and everybody else is somehow having like multiple orgasms a day. And it's just not the case.
Right,
It's just not
right.
the case. And I think it's also like with mental health, with so many things, when a topic is taboo, adds an extra layer, an extra
Mhm.
emotional stress layer. So
Yeah.
being in a group, it can be really healing.
Yeah, I love that. So talk to me about some of the shame that you see women dealing with. Is it that they don't trust their own bodies? They don't know how to experience things. They've done things before marriage and so they're a whore. Where are you seeing the various issues with shame?
I think it's, first of all, there's no one size fits all, and there's no
Mhm.
one story fits all. I'm A lot of the time people don't realize that shame is an issue in the first place because it's often very,
Mm.
very internalized. It's not that somebody's going to come to me and say, I'm really struggling with shame. That might
Yeah.
not be the thing. And it can go both ways. It can be where you were either brought up maybe super religious or super conservative, where you were just taught over and over again from various different places, this bad, body bad,
Mhm.
cover up, be modest, don't be a slut. Or it can also be where you might have had a really like wild young,
Mhm.
I say youth, that sounds bad, but like wild in your younger years.
Yeah.
And then you feel ashamed for it. Was I a slut? Was I doing too
Mhm.
much? And one of my favorite things when I'm talking to women about that is, well, yeah, maybe you did some things that didn't feel in integrity, that didn't feel good to you, that you wouldn't repeat now. But you
Mhm.
learned a lot about yourself and you probably
Right.
had fun.
Yep.
And now that you can, now you're older and wiser, you can take what you've learned and your boundaries and maybe take some of the good stuff that was there, but
Mhm.
that wasn't bad. And if I go back to how it shows up for people, shame is it's an insidious thing, and it's something that creeps up over a period of time. And it's something where it's not so much a thought pattern, but it can be a
Mhm.
deep sense that there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my body, that my body is something ugly and disgusting. I think especially if you come from a background that really prioritizes modesty, I really have an issue with that. Or when there's a lot
Mhm.
of rhetoric today about women covering up, it's basically saying like right now I'm wearing a top, but you can kind of see my cleavage. So like this bad, this good,
Right.
it's this thing where it creates this kind of hypervigilance around our bodies. It can also show up as simple as, I don't know what I like. I don't
Mhm.
know what I want. It's really common to like be in a relationship or have like multiple relationships where you have no idea what you like sexually.
Mhm.
And especially if you're heterosexual, you're just waiting for the man to do everything. And
Yeah.
then if he can't or doesn't or can't read it right, it's like, oh, well, that's it then.
Yep.
Just a lifetime of bad sex. And it can also show up as when you're in bed freezing up. Like, they
Mhm.
whisper in your ear, what do you want me to do? What do you like?
Right. Shit, I don't know.
Stuff.
Right. Yeah. Aren't you
And
supposed to know
yeah,
what I like?
just do it all. It's fine. I like it
Right.
all.
Right.
And like there's this whole narrative where it's in secular society where as women we're taught we're not supposed to be very sexually knowledgeable. It's the
Mhm.
whole like virgin whore dichotomy
Yeah.
where, and it's really awful that it's being repeated in like the manosphere and thing,
Hmm.
where like they want a woman who's like super pure, but also like a freak in the sheets at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
It's impossible. We can't win.
Right.
Um,
I actually
and I can
dated a
go,
man not too long ago, so I'm in my 40s, not too long ago, and that was exactly. He wanted to have great sex, wanted to explore and do different things, and I have a sex podcast, so the man should know better. But he was floored. He was floored at the fact that I have a sexual past. And he would
oh
make
my God.
comments like, "I can't believe you've done that before. I want a woman who is my woman. I don't want a woman who's been out there." Like, first of all, do not shame me and make exactly. And that was like the demise of our relationship because it was like, this is not the 1950s. I am not going to go straight from my parents' house to my husband's house and never explore anything. Like, I believe in exploring and enjoying, and you are not going to make me feel shame. Now, I can
Yeah.
say that now after all of my self work and all of that.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't done all of that self work, and if I hadn't had people like you and myself in my life that have allowed me to explore and to talk about this in a shame free environment and to remind me that I am not bad, right?
Yeah.
Not good or bad. I'm not bad. I just had experiences. And that my experiences don't make me a good or bad person.
Oh
That would have
God.
affected me so much more than it did. And instead, it was like, well, you don't get to say that to me and you don't get to make me feel that way. So goodbye, we're done here. You know, so I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I had already gotten to this point in my life because younger Stephanie would have been devastated by that comment.
Same
Yeah.
if a comment had been said to me in my 20s, yeah, totally. I'm with you on
Mm-hmm.
that. And this is what happens when I work with women where they've had comments like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hit their self-esteem.
Yeah.
Or even like there's the fear that someone's going to say that to them
Mm-hmm.
because it's so ingrained in every culture, unfortunately, that women, we must be good. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be a slut. We want to be
Yeah.
wife material. And there's also very real social consequences of being perceived as slutty,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, like actual real social consequences. So it makes sense that we have a huge fear of that. And like I've heard stories like I even had a guy I knew years ago saying the same thing. Like, I don't want her to say all these dirty things in bed. I want her to be like this. When also I knew that he was shagging around and treating women like shit as well.
Right.
The hypocrisy
The
is
double
real.
yeah, it's such a double standard. It's like and then like you said too, that you're supposed to be so pure and loving, and then bam, wedding night, you better be a sex goddess and you better know how to
Oh yeah.
please your man and you better know what you want and do all the things. And it's like that doesn't
Mm-mm.
work, especially when no one talks to you about sex before you get married. The sex that you see in movies and stuff, I'm sorry, but I jump up and go to the bathroom right afterwards. There are fluids that need to be dealt with. There is like they don't show any of that in the movies. It's like, "Oh, let's cuddle and
No.
go to sleep." No, thank you. I don't want a
None
UTI.
of
I'm going to go pee. Like,
I
you
have
know
to pee and I have to wipe up. And there's like the post-sex wiping. It's really yeah. Who's gonna do the walk to get the tissues? Or did you get the
correct.
tissues?
Yes. Yes. And it's so, like, you have no frame of reference of what real sex is, and there's this societal, "We don't talk about it, hush, hush, just figure it out yourself," but don't really figure it out yourself because then you're a slut.
Of
And it's
course.
just like, "Oh my gosh," like, how do you even become a quote unquote normal adult with a normal sex life and feel good about yourself when we're raised in this type of culture. And I'm so grateful for people like you and like this podcast where we can start to break through these taboos and say, you know what, sex should be part of a normal conversation. Sex should be talked about from day one in your relationship all the way through. What you like now is going to change. And all of these things and body fluids and whatever, because it's normal to talk about that. And it's good to talk about that. You talk about good and bad.
Yeah.
It's good to talk about these things. You're not wrong for wanting to talk about them with your partner. It's not a bad thing to voice your needs. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy to me how, yeah, we're supposed to be fabulous at this, but yet also don't talk about it.
And this is a big part in my one-to-one work and my programs to help women really understand that as a way I say it's like so you can stop gaslighting yourself and you can stop feeling guilty about it. And sometimes you don't even realize you're feeling guilty about it, but it's this comparisonitis. Like, why can't I be somebody super confident? Like, it can bring up so much insecurity. Like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not somebody who's like super body confident and can like strip off and be like all like this. And that comparisonitis of comparing yourself to an impossible standard, it can really crush you. And
Yeah.
also it adds to the shame, it adds to the anxiety. And, you know, when we have sex, it happens in the body.
Mhm.
99% of the time, it happens in the body. And when we have so much shame and anxiety and insecurity, plus body shame, plus diet culture, plus all of
Mhm.
these things, well, then it makes sense. Oh, and then messaging that vaginas are ugly, smelly, and disgusting, don't touch yourself. All of these things. Well, then,
Mhm.
of course, it makes sense that it's going to be hard for you to let go and to have like rippling orgasms because it
Mhm.
doesn't feel safe to your body.
Right.
It's why women, even there's a whole cultural commentary that even today, women who in the media and in the press who don't conform to a certain storyline
Mm.
are treated really badly
Yeah.
in the media. Women who are seen as promiscuous, it doesn't matter what she's really like in real life, she'll
Mhm.
be dragged through the media. She'll have all sorts of stories said about her and told about her. It's not safe to be a sexually empowered woman,
Mhm.
even today. It's getting better, but it's
Yeah.
still very much a thing.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And it is frustrating, especially for those of us who are trying to change that culture. We have a long way to go yet. Talk to me about, so when women come into you and they're talking with you about, I don't know how to explore my body. I don't feel like I'm allowed to. I don't experience orgasms because they're constantly worried about like what you just said. How do you get them to start to open up and say, like, just touch yourself, just do this, like, where
Mm.
does that kind of flow to? How do you get them to be more comfortable with themselves?
I have my own process with this, and also it's like to anybody listening, it's very very bespoke. It's very much
Mhm,
depending on where you're at and what you're comfortable with. But I always start first of all with a bit of information and education about the nervous system in the body and what it does when it's under threat,
mhm,
because that is a way of normalizing your experience. Because I often have clients where they've worked with a practitioner in the past who said, right, just touch yourself, but it's like
mhm,
you're basically starting from 0 to 100. And I think education, psychoeducation is really important. So
mhm,
to first of all know what's happening with your body, why are you reacting like this in the first place? And can you even thank your body and your system for trying to keep you safe?
mhm,
Because I believe that way you start to treat yourself with respect. But I usually start with I like to go back to foundations, which is how does your body tell you it likes something? How does your
mm,
body tell you it doesn't like something? Can we start to get curious about that? Because often you would have had a life and loads of experiences where you've been forced to override yourself
mm,
from, as simple as you've got to sit up straight in class when
mm,
actually what you really want to do is move around.
yeah,
How does your body tell you something feels good? And how does your body tell you something doesn't feel good? And can we
mhm,
start to build a bit more of that relationship? So it's not that, right, I want you to start touching yourself straight away, because that might feel a bit like either like forced homework and like, oh God, well,
mm,
my coach told me I've got to touch myself, but I really don't want to today.
yeah,
But also, it can kind of reinforce, especially if you've got a history of like unwanted touching, or
mm,
you've got a history where a partner's been trying to touch you and turn you on, but you feel so numb or you feel so checked out that it's like, I've no idea. So that's generally what I start with. How does your body tell you it doesn't like something? Can we get curious about that? Can you keep a little journal of how your body told you it liked something?
mm,
And then I also get them to explore non sexual pleasure, but also joy. How
okay,
does your body tell you it liked and enjoyed something? Whether it's a slow cup of coffee, whether it's a hot shower,
mm,
can you keep a journal of the things that brought you pleasure and joy? Because it's a way that you start to teach yourself that it's safe.
mhm,
Because with say these women with so many people, it's not enough for me to say just start touching yourself.
mhm,
Because you
right,
also would have internalized the message that pleasure isn't safe, that
yeah,
sensuality isn't safe. So this is ways in which we can start to reframe it within our mind and our body. Oh, it is safe.
mhm,
Oh, I'm allowed to feel pleasure. I'm going to spend extra long sipping this cappuccino. I'm going
mhm,
to go out because the sunset's looking beautiful and I'm going to spend a couple of moments just like taking it in and savoring it and letting it
yeah,
trickle.
I love
I'm going
that,
to, yeah, I'm going to like buy fancy shower gel and really
mhm,
gorgeous body cream. And maybe for now, I'm not going to try and like feel pleasure per se.
mhm,
I'm just going to allow it to feel good because it feels good.
yeah,
And then we can start to work it in. then we can maybe do some exercises to explore self-touch.
Sure.
But I think, and there's different ways of working as well. There's a
Yeah.
really lovely workbook by someone called Evian Whitney.
Mhm.
And it's called The Sensual Self, I think.
Okay.
And I love it because it's full of prompts of
Yeah.
ways to explore your sensuality. So this is kind of how I work. Was I
Yeah.
waffling or was that? Yeah.
No, I love that. It's so important to, like you said, learn your self-regulation and what feels good and what doesn't feel good just in general life, let alone then
Yeah.
once you get intimate. Another thing that I like to do for my patients, because I'm more on the medical side, right? I'm a urologist. So I'll have
Mm.
my patients take a mirror and just look at themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So many
Yeah.
women have
Yeah.
never looked at themselves. And then I tell them, Google vulvas. Look, they're not the same. There is nothing wrong with the fact that your labias are bigger than somebody else's, or you
Yeah.
have gone through menopause and so your labias have started to disappear, or whatever the issue
Hmm.
is. After a kid, you had an episiotomy and the way things healed up from the scar is a little bit different than before you were pregnant, whatever. And just learning and looking at yourself and knowing that's my urethra, that's my vagina,
Yeah.
these are my, all the body parts. And sometimes that can start to break down some of the shame too, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
because you're just more aware of it's okay to know my body parts. My body parts are my biology. And this is what I touch when that feels good. Or this is what people are talking about when they're talking about, the clit or whatever. Because some people really, truly have never looked at themselves and have no idea what it's like down there. And it's
No,
beautiful. I don't care what you look like down there. It's beautiful and it's yours.
I actually do that with clients. So this is depending on the client, I do
Mhm.
this sometimes one to one, sometimes in groups. We'll have a session where we look at our vulvas. It'd be on
Mhm.
Zoom with the camera off. So
Yeah.
I can't see anything. And that can also bring up a lot. It can be very
Mhm.
powerful. I say make a ritual out of it. I always
Mhm.
say I have my late grandmother's hand mirror that I
Yeah.
use specifically to look at my vulva. Maybe my grandmother looked at her vulva as well with that. I don't know. I know it's just like
Yeah.
the mother line, which I really
Yeah.
find helpful.
Yeah.
And, there's a really good book, I don't know if you know it. It's called Womanhood by Laura
Mhm.
Dodsworth.
Yeah.
It's 100 Vulvas. I always recommend that book
Yeah.
because it's another way of just we need to see more fannies. We need
Yes.
to see more. We need to see more, and it's again because it's even a simple thing of you go into like a public bathroom and it's normal to see penises drawn on the walls.
Mhm. Yep.
Don't see fannies drawn on the walls that often. Not
No.
as much. Sometimes I do, depending. I think I've done it once. I think I saw a penis drawn on
Yeah.
the wall and I think I got a pen and said, right, and I had to draw a vulva next to it just for
Perfect.
balance.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I
But
think it's
yeah,
just so important to even know what you look like to start to be more comfortable. I mean, and the other part of the reason why I do that is you need to know what you look like when you feel it's a good day. And then when
yeah,
you feel something changes, you can look.
yeah,
And then you know what you normally look like and what changes. So, like when my
yeah,
ladies come in with a prolapse, they'll be like, well, there's a bulge there. Okay, well, was that bulge always there? Or is it bigger than it used to be? Or is it brand spanking new? And some of them have no idea because they've never looked
yeah,
before. So if you know what you look like on a quote unquote normal feeling day, then when something feels off, you can look. And that way, when you go to your practitioner, you can say, hey, I have a bigger discharge. I'm swollen. I have this bulge. I have whatever, because you know what's normal for you and now what's not.
yeah. And it reminds me, I like to sometimes bring a bit of feminism and I say, isn't it ridiculous that your lovers would have seen more of your vulva than you have? Isn't that ridiculous? For some women, it's like, yeah, damn it, it's mine.
Yes, that's right.
Or it's like or like you're probably more familiar with like the wrinkles on your face and like
Yeah.
we look at our face every day in the mirror.
Hmm.
It's your body. And it's in sexology, we have an analogy called the donut hole approach, which is where a lot of medicine, a lot of therapy, it's like they deal with everything but around the genital
Hmm.
area. And so, and that it does us disservice because it means that I think especially for women, when men go to the like penises are external, they are easy, they are visible. Men
Hmm.
will stand at urinals. They will have seen other cocks.
Yes.
It's more normal. Generally, as women, we don't look at our friends'
Hmm.
vulvas. It's seen as
No.
something bad. So it creates a lot of disconnect there.
Hmm.
And it makes sense when we've been taught that this is something bad and dirty and smelly and all of this. Well,
Hmm.
part of that, as you said, what you get your patients to do, look at it again.
Yeah.
It's reclaiming that lost part of your body.
Yeah, and just in taking and I think that that just helps to take away some of the shame too. Like, it's yours, own it, look at it. It's okay, it's
Mm,
beautiful, and, there shouldn't be shame around just looking at our own body parts. I mean, for Pete's sake, penis holders come out of the shower and, like, they're all wiggling it around and stuff, like, they're all excited, and they're like, "Hey, baby, look at this." Like, like, we don't do that. We don't bend over and grab our ankles like, "Hey, baby, look at this." Like, we should. Maybe we should start that. I think maybe I will practice that this week.
I think maybe I will try that too. I probably
Yeah.
have done it. I mean, maybe it's just the circles I've been in. But again, it's like it's this. I mean, that you can really get into vulva art, look into like
Mhm.
old ancient erotic art. It's just
Mhm.
normalizing. Like in London, you've got the Vagina Museum,
Yeah.
which I love. I haven't been to the. I only went to their old venue. I haven't been to their new venue because they
Okay.
changed. I think it's the world's first vagina museum, like
Okay.
just about vulvas and vaginas. And like there's loads of people on Instagram now doing vulva stuff. There's vulva
Yeah.
art. You can go on Etsy. I mean, I wear a clitoris necklace. It's
I
very
love that.
subtle.
Yep.
I
Yep.
know. It's
And I
just a
know
little thing for myself.
yeah, and
And it's
yoni
not
is
clitoris, it's
another
a
name
vulva.
for it. Is a vulva,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yoni art is also so yoni is another word that,
Yeah.
some cultures use for the vulva, so that's another one. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
beautiful things out there, and it's so that's helping, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's still so much more we can do as accepting and, doing that. When I
Yeah.
was doing my mirror check the other day, I happened to bend over and pick something up off the ground, and I was like, "Oh." I had my mirror on the floor because I was looking at myself just because that's what I do, it's part of what I do, and as
Yeah.
I bent over, I was like, "Oh, shit changes when you bend over," like, the way that the
I
folds are, I
know.
was like,
I
"Dang,
know.
look at that."
It's so funny. Like I found it weird when I think I was looking at myself lying down, and then I had to
Yeah.
sit up, and I was like, What
Yeah.
happened? It's all become squashed as I sit up." This is
Yes.
so weird.
Yes. So look at yourself in different positions.
And like, and also I'd say laugh at it in terms of
Yeah.
it's okay if it's funny,
Yeah.
if it feels ridiculous. I think when we bring that humor and that lightness to it, because
Yeah.
often there's this expectation that it has to be super serious, like, right, looking at my
Yes.
vulva now, and it's a
Right.
thing, and I've got to make it a thing. It's okay to
Yes.
laugh at it and be like,
Mhm.
this is ridiculous. I
Yeah.
feel ridiculous. This is silly. No, like, pull faces.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, or, "Oh, look at that patch of hair I missed when I was shaving," or,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, there's a piece of toilet paper, didn't get that," like, there's so many
Oh,
times
yeah.
that I will be doing a vaginal exam on one of my ladies and just, like, pull a little piece of toilet paper.
Oh,
We have
yeah.
a lot of folds, ladies. It happens. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I think it's like, I remember I did a sexological retreat years ago before COVID. And
Mhm.
like part of it, one of the days is that we'd have like a vulva show and tell. So a couple of us would volunteer and we'd show our vulvas. And it was really beautiful because first of all, you saw like a selection of real vulvas.
Mm.
And I think I remember a friend saying, "Oh, look, there's some toilet paper here."
Yeah.
That normalizing, like,
Mhm.
yep, we get toilet paper, we miss bits. There's like
Yep.
ingrown hairs.
Mhm.
There's something missed here, and it's normal, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's body,
Yeah,
and it's
and
normal.
getting things like Bartholian cysts or things like that doesn't mean that you're dirty. It doesn't mean you did something wrong. It's just reactions of our body, no different than getting a cyst anywhere else on your body. It's a clogged pore. These things
Yeah.
happen. And so I think just the more you can learn and look at yourself and learn about yourself, I think just gives you so much less shame and just more body confidence and ownership.
It's totally about ownership, and it's, I guess I feel somatically, it's almost like it's like all of you is here.
Hmm.
It's like reclaiming all of you, that all of you is on board rather than having to shut down parts of you. I say this like when I first was, I guess, exploring tantric
Hmm.
exercises for myself. Again, coming from a church background, it was almost like I felt like all of myself was present,
Hmm.
that all of me could be on board, and not realizing before that I couldn't feel all of me.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah, it's
powerful. It's really
fantastic.
powerful.
It really is. You know, I I don't think that we realize how much we're missing until we take the time to explore and take that breath and stuff. And I always tell my patients, how do you expect your partner to know what works for you if you don't know what works for you?
Mm-mm.
Take that time. And
Yeah.
I love what you said about, just feeling pleasure anyways. It doesn't have to be today's session is about climaxing myself. It can be
Mm-mm.
does hard touch, soft touch, feather touch, silk, what feels good when I rub
Mm-mm.
it on my skin? And that's what today's
Yeah.
session is. Just what do I feel like feels good? What does it feel like to just have nibble play today? I'm not touching my anything below the belt. I'm just playing with my boobs today. Like what each time that you take time to explore doesn't have to result in climax. It can just
Mm.
be what feels good, what doesn't feel good. I'm listening to my body, I'm learning myself. And then when you get into the partnered situation, you can be more confident to say, I'd rather you touch me this way. I actually prefer this. Things like that, instead of
Mm.
expecting your partner to just know what to do for you.
Oh, yeah. And I always say it's like, I guess you can get the feminism on board again, but it's like, why should you wait for your partner? But
Mhm,
it's your body, it's yourself. And it's also like whenever I say nobody can give you an orgasm, in
mhm,
that, yes, they can create the right conditions, but the orgasm happens within you. And I
mhm,
also love what you say, like today's nipple play day. Like when I was running a group program a couple of months ago, this is one of the big takeaways that a lot of the women got, which was I don't have to bring myself to orgasm. I can just like enjoy myself and just like enjoy hanging out in this space. And
mhm,
maybe I'll take it further, maybe I won't, but I'm just going to
mhm.
allow myself to feel pleasure for pleasure's sake. And
Yeah.
that's it. I think it's
Yep.
often a mindset change as well, which is
Mhm.
very countercultural, which
Right.
is I'm allowed to feel pleasure for pleasure's sake without there being
Mhm.
a goal.
Yes.
I don't have to earn it,
Mhm.
especially if you not just come from a conservative background, but even a corporate background or a background where you had to prove yourself and be the good girl and get
Mhm.
the good grades and be a good woman and be a good person.
Right.
This idea that we get to feel pleasure for pleasure's sake or even gratuitous pleasure for pleasure's sake
Mhm.
can really flip a lot of ideas on the head.
Mhm.
It can be
Yeah.
very, yeah.
And I think in partnered situations too, to not have to climax together, whether
Mm-mm.
that's each person has to climax, nobody climaxes. Intimacy doesn't have to equal penetration. Intimacy doesn't have to equal climax. You can experience those times of pleasure with each other in various forms. It doesn't have to be our goal is climax today. It can just be
Mm-mm.
enjoying each other, give each other massages, give each other play, give each other whatever. Maybe it's just a hot makeout session this time, you know? Those are great. You don't have to
and
save
also
those for the teenagers, like, you can have a hot makeout session as an adult.
when was the last time you had a hot makeout session as
Right.
well? Like, think about that, especially if, like, you've been having sex and you think, "Well, why?" Especially if, like, you were not having sex before and you were, like, just making out because that's
Mhm.
as far as you could go.
Right.
Have a hot makeout session. Why aren't you
Yeah.
do that now? It's fun, and you're
Right.
allowed to have fun and enjoy that closeness with each other.
Yeah.
Again, pleasure and closeness for pleasure's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that those times are when you can really break through some of your barriers too.
Mm.
When you're
Yeah,
taking
totally.
that climax goal off the table and just enjoying each other and playing and having fun. And I love to reiterate that to my patients too, that you guys should be having these conversations about sex with your partners. It should be, like you said, you should be able to laugh. Your body made a weird noise during sex. You squirted for the first time. You whatever, you want to stop and be like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like, you know, that should be
You
okay.
farted or you
Right.
queefed, and it's okay.
Exactly. Yes. And that's okay. And these things happen. And, I want everyone to have that closeness with their partner where when those things happen, you do stop and you just laugh. And whether you pick back up and go for it or that's the end of your session because it was
Mm,
just too funny to get back into, like, who cares? But I want you to have that closeness with your partner where you can laugh like
yeah.
that and have fun and explore each other to the true sense of exploring what feels good, what doesn't, instead of just, all right, we have to have sex 3 times a week because we're married and that's what you're supposed to do. And it's P and V every time. Everybody has to climax or we failed. No, that's just not true.
And especially when, like, you hear these statistics, like, I mean, like, some podcast bros make these up saying a healthy relationship should be having sex 3 times a week, or, like,
Hmm.
these statistics, 'cause I often I do hear that where there's that guilt of, "Well, we're not having sex very often."
Hmm.
Well, like, I get annoyed at those as well because, like, when you put a number on it, you're not a productivity goal. And
Hmm.
also, it puts so much pressure, especially on the woman, but also on the
Yeah.
man as well. And it's like, but was it enjoyable? Or were you just ticking a box? Or just
Right.
like getting it done because you feel you have to?
Hmm.
That's not going to last.
Right.
You can't maintain having duty sex for that long.
Hmm.
before something happens and resentment
Right.
builds. It's not fun.
Right. And I think, that's where the communication comes in too, is if your partner is really struggling to climax on multiple occasions, having that conversation of like, are you still satisfied regardless of your climax? Because there are some people that just truly struggle to climax, but everything feels really great and they really are satisfied versus
Mm,
somebody who's like, I just really need X, Y, and Z to be able to come. And we really have to do that. And if it's like, I don't know, hanging from a chandelier or whatever, maybe you only do it 2 or 3 times a month, but the other times are enjoyable. Or maybe that person is just like, "You know what? It's just really hard for me to climax, but everything feels really great, and I don't wanna keep putting you through another 20 minutes of me just to hit that goal." Like,
mm,
and so I think having that communication is really important too, just so that
yeah.
everybody's on the same page because it really you don't have to climax every time or your partner's gonna run away and go cheat on you. Like,
No.
that's not the set.
And it's also, I often think it's this idea that subconsciously that often a woman can feel that she owes her partner an
Mhm.
orgasm, or that you want to give your partner an orgasm because it's
Mhm.
going to make them feel more confident.
Yep.
And like really examine that it can be really subtle sometimes. Do you feel that you owe your partner an orgasm? Maybe you
Right.
don't. That's great. And maybe they just really want you to, maybe, it can also be the case where they just really love you and they care and they just want to help you come because it feels so good.
Mhm.
And that pressure can also, the pressure never helps anyone.
Yeah.
But really think about that. Does your orgasm feel that it belongs to you? Or
Mm.
do you feel that you should have one because that's what good sex is? And if you don't have an orgasm, then your partner's going to leave you. And if they've said
Yeah.
that, then maybe examine that relationship dynamic because that
Yeah.
ain't helpful. That's not
Right.
helpful at all.
Right. Or healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
There's so many levels to this, on the individual and getting comfortable with yourself and learning yourself. And then there's the whole partnership thing. And they've got to do their work too, because you can't expect everything to come together if as individuals you're not doing it either. So, I think this is just it's such a great conversation because there's so many levels to our sexuality and our comfort level within our sexuality.
Yeah. Totally. And there was something that what you were saying earlier, where what are some ways to help with shame around your body?
Mhm,
And this is one, and I think it's tricky in the US because it's not as cultural. But for example, here in Austria and in a lot of Europe, when you go to sauna, and
mhm.
sauna is a very normal part of culture here. It's at most swimming pools. You do sauna nude,
Okay.
and it's a thing. Actually, you're not allowed to take a bathing suit into a sauna.
Hmm,
You have to take a towel, and they say for hygiene purposes, it's nude. There's different places. A lot of places tend to be gender segregated, so you can go to a woman's only one. Um,
mhm,
if you go to Finland, everyone does sauna all the time, and it's
hmm,
mixed. And if you can ever go there, it's a very, very healing experience, I think.
hmm,
But I think I really have a lot to say for if there's a space where you can be nude in a non-sexual
mhm,
container. And it's different in different countries. In the UK and the USA, it's a lot more difficult.
mhm,
But certainly here in Austria, we've got this thing called FKK, Freikültur or something. It's not as common, but we have reserved nudist spots or nudist
hmm,
sunbathing.
okay.
Now, maybe you're listening to this and thinking, oh my God, absolutely not. No way in hell.
Yeah.
Hell no. This is a weird sex coach who's telling me to get nude in front of strangers. Absolutely not. You're mad. I am just saying, it depends on your comfort levels. It depends
Mhm,
if you're going to take a trip to Europe, for example. There's a lot to be said for when you are nude or semi nude in
mm,
non sexual spaces. It takes a lot. It can really help melt a lot of the emotional baggage
mhm,
that we have. Because even though this is a sex podcast, it's actually also, can we desexualize nudity? Because it's another way of us feeling comfortable and okay in our bodies. And
yeah.
sometimes even just seeing a wide range of naked bodies in front of you and being like, oh, thank God, my body's actually all right. There's actually
Yeah.
nothing wrong with myself.
Right.
I think there's a lot we can do there, but it depends on where you live. It depends on lots of things.
Yeah, I agree because I know, like, if you change in the locker room, you keep a towel around
Yeah.
yourself, you pull the underwear
Yeah.
up before you put the towel down, all that stuff,
Oh
and
God. Yeah.
it's ridiculous. I don't understand where we got in this culture because I know, like, in my parents' generation, like, you showered in the locker room after gym class and things like that. By the time I
Yeah.
was in high school and gym class, nobody showered in the locker room afterwards, and,
No.
like, that was Right? Like, that was so unheard of. Like, don't look at me. I'm going to be around my towel. I'm going to go in the bathroom to put my clothes on. Like, it's so
Yeah.
crazy how, like you said, these non-sexual environments that we feel sexualized by being nude. No,
Yeah.
you're just a person. You have a body, and you're okay to be nude in certain situations without it being sexualized.
No, I mean, even the simple thing when I go to like a public swimming pool here,
Hmm.
yeah, obviously they have men's and women's changing,
Yep.
but it's very normal here. Like they'll have cabins, but it's very normal in the locker areas to just see women stripping off,
Mm,
doing the things.
yeah.
It's not a thing. And
Yeah.
it it's not a thing. It's not a problem. And you see women nude in the shower. And again, it's not
Hmm.
an issue. And that there's so much healing I think that can happen there,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, I grew up working at a pool and there would be a line outside of the changing rooms because nobody would just
Mm,
change in the middle of the area. And it like why?
yeah,
Who cares? We just saw each other in swimming suits. You're not covering very much anyway. So you might as well just strip down and go, like it's so
I
crazy
know, I
how we
know.
all behave and act in those situations. And I really hope that there's more of a movement towards, body acceptance and taking away the sexualness of being nude in situations that aren't sexual. I think that would do a
Yeah.
lot for all of us.
Me too. I totally am on board. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens in the world.
Right.
But
Exactly. Exactly. Lucy, thank you so much for being here. I want to give you a minute to plug how anyone
I
can get in
know.
touch with you. And I know you have a workshop coming up. So go ahead and say what you want to say about yourself and what you offer.
Thank you so much. It's been such a delight to come onto this podcast, by the way. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah.
Dr. Stephanie or just Stephanie or
Stephanie is great.
Stephanie. Awesome. So you can find me through my website, which is lucyrowett.com. Oh, please take a breath. So I work with women involved owners one-to-one. However, I am about to go on maternity leave. So if
Okay.
you want to work with me, get in ASAP because we're recording this in September. For Christmas, I'm going on maternity leave.
Okay.
So get in now. I'm running a workshop on September 23rd. I know this will be published after, and it's called
Mhm.
Reignite Your Desire. It's for women with low libido. It will be recorded and then I'll be selling it after that. So when
Awesome.
this comes out, if you want to attend it, you can buy the recording. I have a digital course on orgasms called Orgasmic Liberation, which is how to
Mm.
have an orgasm for women. What else? I have a podcast of my own called The Naked and
Okay.
Unashamed Life. I haven't touched it in a couple of months because pregnancy was really kicking my bum.
Yeah.
Any questions? I'm on Instagram as well at Lucy Rowett. I have a free practice, which is a practice to start moving from feeling numb to feel again. The practice
Mm.
is called Feel Again when we connect to our vulvas. It's a really powerful and simple practice where if you are feeling numb, if you're struggling to orgasm, if your libido is low, it's a way that we start to feel your body again. It's free. It gets you onto my mailing list. I'll post all the links and send them to Stephanie. And any
Perfect.
questions or feedback, do get in touch. Email, Instagram DM. Yeah, email or Instagram DM. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, those will all be in the show notes. We'll make sure. And then, Lucy, thank you so much for being here. This was such a delightful conversation and I think a very, very necessary one.
So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, go have some fun between the sheets. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us and exploring sexual health topics here on Between the Sheets. New episodes are available every Wednesday. Please subscribe and rate our podcast so we can reach more listeners. And don't forget to tell your friends, partners, and anyone who will listen about Between the Sheets. Send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. It's all one word, podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and go have some fun between the sheets.